Hello you guys, welcome back. My name's Jess. Today I thought we would do some reading again together. I really like doing reading vlogs, especially week-long reading vlogs because I work and I don't read super fast. So over the course of a week, I can get a good amount of reading done. So right now I'm currently reading Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I'm also reading Listen for the Lie on audiobook, which I'm really enjoying. I think I started that last week or the week before, but I had run out of Spotify hours for a little bit, so I picked it back up. I haven't had a ton of time to actually like listen to a book lately. I've been having more like reading time, but I've been really enjoying it, especially because with the audiobook specifically, there's like podcast elements to the book. And so it will actually like do a fake podcast, like a little jingle and then like introducing the host and like the whole thing, the interviews, and it has like a whole different voice actor for that, which is really fun. So I'm really liking that a lot. But right now I wanted to pick up Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes because I ideally want to finish this. My goal originally was to finish this by the end of the month, but literally today is June 30th. So today is the end of the month. I don't think I'll be able to finish this, but I want to try my best. I have quite a few hours left on the book. So I want to give it a go, see what I can do with it. So let's just get to it. I'm on part 2, chapter 11. I'm about 30% of the way through the book. It's been a very interesting book so far. Basically, I'm just getting to know who Coriolanus, I don't remember how to say his name. Corio, they call him Corio, which is President Snow. I'm just getting to know who he is, what his background is, who he was as a like teen, which is very interesting. And it's kind of one of those situations, almost like if you were to spoil yourself with something in a book, but you still want to know the journey. Like we all know what President Snow ends up like because of the original trilogy, but I'm like so intrigued as to how he gets to that point. The first little bit of setup was a little slow for me to get into, only because I just like wasn't familiar with how the Hunger Games world is, specifically in the Capitol and specifically in this time period, because we're at the 10th annual Hunger Games. And I think when we're in the original trilogy, I think it's like the 70 something anniversary of the Hunger Games. So it's very early days for the Hunger Games. Just figuring out who he is, how he's becoming what he ends up is just, all of it is very intriguing. I'm also very excited to finish this book because I really want to get into Sunrise on the Reaping, which I'm just so excited about, but I absolutely have to read this one first. I feel like that's also partially motivating me, to be really honest, but I am really enjoying this one a lot. I don't know what I would rate it so far, but I am only 30% of the way through too, so I don't think it would really be fair to rate it at this point. So let's just keep reading. I want to just see how much I can do within today. It's 10 a.m. right now, and I feel like I could get a good chunk of it read. Maybe I'll finish it by tomorrow, who knows, but I'm gonna try my best. Let's get to reading and I'll update you guys when exciting things in the books happen. Hello you guys, it's now after work and I wanted to update you guys on some thoughts that I had because now I'm almost 40% of the way through Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. So a couple of things. I don't know if we're actually going to get to see the Hunger Games, like the actual trials, if you will. I don't know if trials are the right word, but like just like the games themselves, or if that's just like more we're gonna see what's going on in the Capitol while the games are happening. I can't imagine that we're just gonna like go from following President Snow all the way to like following one of the characters inside of the games, but maybe we'll like through him get to see perspective of what's happening. That's my assumption, at least. I know close to nothing about this book. I'm just diving right into it. It is interesting though, because like the way that they talk about the District 12 girl, which is the person that President Snow is mentoring before, he's not the president, it's just I can't say his first name very well, so I just am still calling him President Snow. But anyway, he's mentoring her, and the way that they talk about her, it's almost like she's going to win. And I'm really interested to see how that all plays out, because we all know from the rest of the series that Haymitch was the very first District 12 winner. So I'm wondering if maybe someone else had passed and so like she wasn't really talked about a lot. Maybe he was like the only District 12 winner that was alive, or maybe, I don't know, if something else happens, maybe she actually does die, like who knows? I have no idea, but I'm very intrigued to see how her story continues to play out. We also see a lot of like President Snow going through kind of tough times, but he's never really upset about them because they're sort of things that he grew up knowing to be true about him or his family. Like for example, they're not very rich anymore because of all of the wars that have been going on, but you never really see him upset with his situation. You just more so see him like deal with the situation at hand. But we're finally seeing a situation where he's like clearly upset and like bothered, and you're kind of like, is this where his villain arc starts? I don't know, because like we're waiting for that like moment to drop. By seeing him frustrated, it's making you wonder if like that's the first thing that's happening, and then slowly all of these other frustrations were going to come up, and that's what's going to make him sort of like become the person that he is. The last thing is like very, very small. I never knew until I read this book that Tigress and President Snow were cousins, but I also didn't know that Tigress was actually older than him. And it's interesting because she looks so young, and obviously we know that there's a lot of plastic surgery in the capitals and things like that, but it's just so weird to see her be actually a couple of years older. So it's just interesting. Those are the thoughts so far. I'm super excited to continue to read and just like learn more, because I feel like we're right at that pivot point where it's going to start to go really fast. Today is Tuesday. This morning I did some more reading of Hunger Games Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I don't know why I always forget the title. I'm actually super excited because the next book, Sunrise on the Reaping, just became available for Libby, so I downloaded it. That's one that I'm like really excited about, although this one's picking up like crazy. So I think we're like 40, almost 50% of the way through now, and we're finally seeing like the first instances of the Hunger Games. And it's very interesting because it seems like this year, the 10th year of the Hunger Games, is the first one where the Hunger Games may take more than a day. And like they're sort of alluding to like, oh, this used to be such a fast process, like we would just like sit around and watch and it would be done within a day, but it's taking longer this year. And we're just seeing like sort of from the sidelines, so it's almost like we're sitting in the like stands in an arena and watching them fight to the death essentially, but there's so many places that people can hide that's why it's taking so long. So they're just kind of like, okay, what do we do now, and like figuring it all out. And you're just seeing our main character, which is President Snow, interact with a lot of the students, a lot of the parents, or like a lot of the sponsors, like just everyone in the Capitol, which it's just such a fun, different type of take on the Hunger Games. And you're still getting bits and pieces of what's happening in the arena, but only from like the vantage point of sitting in your seat and watching. So I actually really like this a lot because it doesn't feel repetitive in comparison to the other Hunger Games, because we've already seen multiple games at this point. I am curious to see how that's going to be in the next book, because I'm pretty sure that is just like essentially kind of like the very first book in the Hunger Games series, except following Haymitch. But I think that one's just going to be super emotional too. But at this point, it's just like picking up super fast. I'm super excited about it. But I am gonna work for a little bit and then we'll get back to some reading. I'm off early today at work. I think I'm off at like 2:30 or so because P has a doctor's appointment. I will get a little bit more reading done, hopefully. That's kind of it for now. I'll continue to update you guys with whatever happens in the book. Hello you guys, it is 4:15 right now and I have the rest of the day off for today because I had to take P to a vet appointment. So I think I'm going to do a few chores, but while I was driving back and forth, I got back into my audiobook, which is Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera. I'm really enjoying it, and now I'm at the 90% mark, so I have about an hour left of the book, but I listen on 2x speed, so I have about 30 minutes. So I'm gonna clean my house and finish this book. I've been wanting to finish it for a while, but I'm not really good at just like sitting and listening to a podcast, and I also can't like multitask. Like I can't focus in on like work emails and things like that while I'm also listening to the podcast. Not podcast. There's a podcast element in the book. Audiobook is what I meant to say. I really like the audiobook. I think I've mentioned it to you guys before already, but I'm very much enjoying it. I think it's super good. I like that there's multiple voice actors and that there's the podcast element, and it's just like a classic whodunit, so it just makes it really intriguing. It makes you want to hear all of it and like just understand what exactly happened. So I am like right there where I think that we're gonna figure out who did what. So let's get to cleaning, let's get to reading, and then after I'm done with this book, I'm gonna circle back over to the Hunger Games book. I wanted to tell you guys that I finished Listen for the Lie. I actually really enjoyed it. I have said several times now that I really like the podcasty elements of the audiobook, but I am rating it 4 stars, and the only reason really is because I feel like I felt disconnected from the book, and I think that I would have benefited from reading this book as like a physical book, like on my Kindle or whatever, instead of just listening to it. I feel this way often with audiobooks. It's like I almost feel like I end up rating it 1 star lower than I normally would have, only only because I just don't feel as connected to the book, the characters, the storyline, all of the above. And I don't know if that's just because of like the speed that I listen to it at, or because I take more pauses in between listens. Like I'm not listening to a book from start to finish usually, unless I'm really into the book. So for that reason, I just felt like I wasn't super connected to our main character. And I think that there was like a lot of instances where we were in her head, but I just kind of I didn't really care if she was the one who murdered somebody or not. Do you know what I mean? Like I wasn't like feeling for her or like stressed for her or any of that. That being said, it was a classic whodunit. I really enjoyed it a lot. I liked that it was just, I don't know, it just kept you on your toes the entire time. I, again, really liked the podcast elements, and I'm sure it would be the same for like reading it. I like when books do a podcast or a show script or just something a little different to take you out of just reading the book. I don't know if that makes sense. So it's just like something a little different from the normal chapters. I think it's just really fun and it adds an extra element to it. And it almost reminded me of the reappearance of Rachel Price when they're doing like the documentary. The book also did a really good job of steering you away from who the murderer was. The whole time you're just not even considering that person as a suspect. Like I said, I ended up rating it 4 stars and I think it was a fantastic book. I am curious to know how I would have rated it if I wouldn't have listened to it, but we can't really know that. So I do recommend it. I think that it was a really good read. But now I'm gonna go back to reading the Hunger Games book, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. We're right in the middle of the games and I'm super excited because we're finally getting some action. Like the beginning of the games, there was like not a lot of action happening, which we had a feeling that was gonna happen. But now we're getting to a point where there are a few people, like tributes, that are in the middle of the games who are starting to like interact. So we're getting some more action. And I'm curious to see how our main character is like, you know, gonna be as a mentor and like still what's gonna be his like villain arc. I'm already starting to see it, like I had said previously, but I want to know what is it that makes him break and what makes him the President Snow that we know 60 plus years later. So let's get back to it and get into Hunger Games. Okay, I'm currently on chapter 14 of Songbirds and Snakes, and it's very interesting because there's a lot of pieces, and like I've been saying, I almost feel like we're starting to get pieces of like what maybe could be President Snow's villain arc and like what is causing him to want to almost be a villain, if that makes any sense. Like what is the kicker or like the straw that broke the camel's back that makes him who he is. But so many of the things that are happening to him feel like they're done by the Capitol or like the people who run the Capitol, the current president, things like that. So it's interesting to me that he, like in my mind, I'm like, how is it that he then becomes one of them if he's been so wronged by them? And I wonder if it's like either something happens or he vows to be different and then takes power and is not different at all. Like I'm truly confused and so intrigued to read more so that I can learn about how it is that he gets there, because I'm honestly like kind of shocked. He seems as a young person like a very likable person, somebody who has like a decent head on their shoulders. He's gone through his own trauma and so wants to do better for others, but then like the President Snow that we come to know is bad for lack of a better word. He's just bad. I have a lot of theories, but I have no idea how it's gonna play out right now. I guess we'll just find out, but it's very interesting to like see the progression very slowly. Today's Wednesday and I wanted to tell you guys about, oh, I just hit myself in the face. I wanted to tell you guys about Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I am now 60% of the way through. I'm really liking this book so much. We're getting so much information about the actual Hunger Games, like what's going on in it. I actually also think I said earlier in this vlog that there's no District 12 winner besides Haymitch, and I'm thinking that that's not actually true and that maybe I misremembered. Like I think that this is like totally public knowledge and like not a spoiler at all, but I think there is actually a District 12 winner and I think it's from this Hunger Games. So I am excited to like see how she wins and like what happens next. President Snow is doing some shady things, but we still haven't really seen the thing that gets him to that point of like nearly like anger. Even people have described him to be a very like selfless person, thinking about other people, that kind of thing. So we haven't quite gotten there yet. So I'm intrigued to see how the rest of this is played out. I am on chapter 20 and on chapter 21 is when we hit part 3, which is called The Peacekeeper. And there's only 30 chapters in this book. So I had said on Monday that I wanted to try to finish this on Monday. I knew that that was never going to happen, but I'm gonna see how much I can read today and hope for the best, crossing my fingers. I also don't know that I could finish it today because I have so much left, like 6.5 hours left of this book, but I do think that I could get pretty close. So I'm gonna try my best and see what happens. Otherwise, I had a feeling that I was gonna finish this like end of week, but I was trying to be really hopeful with myself. I don't really have too many other updates. Honestly, it's just been a lot of like watching things in the Hunger Games happen, watching more of like President Snow's thought process and like, I don't know, just all of like what he's thinking about during the Hunger Games and how he's feeling about our main tribute that we're following, and just like watching one of the first Hunger Games play out. I wish that there was almost like a book that was even before this. We know that the Hunger Games starts because the districts are rebelling against the Capitol, but I'm almost curious to see how we went from like the United States of America to the Capitol and its districts. How did that all happen? We don't actually get that information, and I'd be very intrigued to see that too, but we don't get that. So I almost wish there was another book in this series that explained even more info. So let's go. I'm gonna go take P on his walk, and then I'm gonna continue reading for the rest of the evening today. So let's go take him, and I'll update you guys as I learn more. We're getting to the point now, we're on chapter 21, where we're actually seeing why Snow is the way that he is. Like all of the bad things that happened, I'm like seeing it now, and it makes so much sense. Like they did him so dirty. This is actually like, I'm kind of mind blown that like the people who were in charge were like this bad or like this mean to him, but it makes a lot of sense. I can't imagine being in his shoes right now because he like literally did everything that he could, and then he still kind of got screwed over. Good morning, you guys. Today's Thursday. Oh my god, the week is passing by so fast. Remember when I said that I was gonna read all of this on Monday? I'm still reading it, but I am really enjoying it. I'm now on chapter 22, which is 65% of the way through, and there's only 30 chapters, so I feel really, really close. I have 6-ish hours to read to finish this book, and so much has happened. We're at kind of a crazy part. So basically, like post Hunger Games, we actually see the entirety of the Hunger Games. So there's 3 parts in this book. The beginning is just like build up, the second part is the Hunger Games, and the third part is like post Hunger Games. And I think this is the part where I'm like extra excited to read, because like this is the in-between between like how Snow went from living in the Capitol to like becoming president and like everything in between. Right now, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but he has his whole life has turned upside down. Basically, they found out some things that happened during the Hunger Games, and so they were like, no, you have to like go do this other thing instead of continuing on to go to school, which was his entire plan his whole life. He's now in a new program, and I'll just leave it at that. But he's in a new program, and he's trying to figure out what happened to his tribute, because he not only like really cared for her as a person, but like really kind of like had feelings for her. So he's trying to like figure out where she is, or if she's even alive, even though she did win the Hunger Games. We also just saw like where he's at now, someone else comes in and is just like gonna be there with him, I guess. And I don't know how long. Like I assume that there's going to be a time jump, because we only have so many 8 chapters left. There has to be a time jump, I'm sure, because if not, then like I don't know how all of this would wrap up. So I'm very, very interested in like, the whole book has been so interesting, but this particular part, like from the second half of part 2 and onward, I've been like, I need to just be reading. I'm going to take P on his morning walk, and then I'm gonna get to reading, and I'll update you guys some more. But yeah, I really like this one a lot. If you guys enjoyed the Hunger Games series previously, I definitely recommend it, and I'm just so excited to pick up the next book because I think that one's gonna be even better. So I'm excited. Hopefully the dishwasher is not too loud, but I wanted to tell you guys something that I'm finding in my book. So I'm on chapter 23 now, and I'm almost 70% of the way through the book. It's so cool because, like I was telling you guys before, just so many things are like falling into place for me finally. And I knew that that's what would happen with this book, but it's just like so neat when you like understand finally like why somebody is the way that they are. Right now, we're in a spot where President Snow, Coriolanus, I couldn't say his name before, but I've read it enough times now that I can finally say his name. They also call him Corio, but Coriolanus is like mostly what they call him. He only lets people use his nickname if they're like super close friends or family members. But point being, he's in this new time of his life is where I'll leave that at because I don't want to give any spoilers. But he essentially finally encounters a Mockingjay, which is a huge piece of the original trilogy. Is like, even Katniss calls herself the Mockingjay, like that's what she represents. Like it's a huge piece of the original Hunger Games with Rue. So like the Mockingjay is very key to the whole series. Coriolanus encounters his very first Mockingjay in like the scene that we're in, and he immediately just doesn't like it. He's like, I don't know why that thing is singing. Like somebody effectively is killed and the Mockingjay is like mimicking them being killed, and so he's just like completely off put by the Mockingjay. And it just kind of goes to show how like the one thing that Katniss was holding on to is the one thing that he hated from the very get-go. You couldn't have done anything but like have these two people at odds because of the way that they just think in general. I also find it interesting that one of his best friends was originally somebody who lived in the districts and then eventually moved to the capital, and so he slowly gives him like bits and pieces of information of like, no, actually the capital's always told you this, but in reality this is how it is in the districts. Coriolanus is kind of like trying to figure these things out for himself and like understanding what's propaganda, what has been always told to him because he lives in the capital, what things are privileges versus what's the reality, how are people in the districts actually living, so on and so forth. So I'm really enjoying it a lot, honestly. It's so good. I'm like flying through it right now. I feel like all I want to do is sit down and read, and I'm loving that for myself because it's been really hard this year. I feel like few books have given that to me, so I'm excited to just be here and be reading. Okay, we've had a reunion of sorts between a couple of characters, and I'm back into the headspace of like, how is this going to completely shift to bad? Because we're on chapter 24, there's 6 chapters left. This moment in particular is so precious, and I'm like, how does this all go wrong? Like something crazy has to happen, and I have so many theories. I'm trying to like not look too much up online, but like there's too many things that match up that I'm like, there's no way, especially because this is a prequel and this was written after the other books. Clearly Suzanne Collins knew what she was doing, and she put a bunch of little tiny pieces into this book that would make you feel like, oh, that matches with the original trilogy. It's just like, I feel so sad for him, but at the same time I know that I'm gonna end up being angry with him because he becomes who he becomes. I just like, I want to know how it all goes wrong because this moment is just so precious, like I was saying. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it's like this particular moment is just making me really happy, and I almost don't want to know how he turns evil. I'm so close to finishing Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I just wanted to update you guys because I have probably about an hour left. I tried so hard to finish it last night, but I just like couldn't stay awake. So we said we were going to try to finish it earlier this week, and then now it's Friday, but that's okay because we're going to finish it today. There's a lot of things happening, and considering I have like 2 chapters left of the book, I have no idea how this is going to be wrapped up, honestly, because I feel like there's such a large gap between what's happening right now in our main character's life and how he becomes the president. And I know that there's an epilogue, so there's going to be a huge time jump there, I assume, but I still like don't know how they're going to wrap it all up. I can kind of start to see Snow, Coriolanus, I just said that I could say his name yesterday and now I can't say it again. Coriolanus Snow, I can kind of see like how he's starting to develop and like get angry with things. There's one particular moment with him and another character, Lucy Gray, and I'm wondering like which side of this is the truth, if that makes any sense. Like there's one side where she's saying something to him, but then there's something else that she's saying to other people, and I'm almost like, is what she's saying to him true, or is she lying to his face? Now that I've read a lot of it, I was reading some reviews, and some people didn't like Lucy Gray as a character at all. Some people just like didn't care for the book, and I was like pretty floored by that because I think that it like the execution of the book is so well done. I will say that there's a few Easter eggs, which is normally really fun and something that I very much enjoy in books, but it's almost like too on the nose. Like they'll randomly pick up Katniss and be like, oh my god, Katniss. And it's like, okay, that's just thrown in there just because to like make us happy, and like there was no actual reason for it. Other times they'll allude to like a lake that they want to go to, and you know that like that's where Katniss and Gale eventually go to, and like that's where she went with her dad. So it's like kind of cool. There's a lot of fan theories about like how maybe some of these characters are related to Katniss, but that's not at all in the actual book. There's just like a few things here and there that like feel like they click well enough that you're like, okay, that must be the connection. I do also think that Snow's hatred for things like the Mockingjays and stuff like that, it's just like, it's so immediate that it almost feels like they just had to like make it something that he hated, so it made sense for the original trilogy. I don't know, that is like a kind of hit or miss for me. I'm trying to think of other things that have happened over the last like 24 hours that I've read about, but honestly I am really enjoying it. I'll probably give this book a 4 or 5 star. Like I don't know, it all depends on like how it ends and whether or not I think that I'll continue thinking about these characters in this book, because I do really feel for Coriolanus, and I think that the writing is well done in the sense that like it makes me feel bad for this person who in the entire rest of the series is like a bad person. So I do enjoy that aspect of it. Let's get to some reading. I'm gonna make some breakfast first and then we'll get to some reading. And I have the day off today because it is 4th of July. Yeah, let's get to reading. Hello you guys, it's 10 p.m. now, and I actually finished my book Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes a little bit earlier, but I had a lot of things to get done. I finished the book and then I wanted to do a workout, and then I had to get ready because today's the 4th of July, and so then we went over to Ryan's parents' house and now we're back here. So I didn't get a chance to check in with you guys after finishing the book, but I finished it earlier and I wrote down some notes. Overall, I gave it 5 stars. I think that it was a fantastic book. I really loved being able to see everything from somebody else's point of view, because we've had a couple of books now in this series where they show like the first Hunger Games obviously is all about the Hunger Games themselves, and then the second one has another set of Hunger Games, and then Sunrise on the Reaping has another set of Hunger Games. So I wanted to have the Hunger Games, but I didn't want it in the exact same way. So I actually really enjoyed being able to see it from somebody else's perspective, see it from the Capitol's perspective. I really liked getting a chance to like hear everything from the Capitol, understand how the Capitol works, what it's like to live in the Capitol, and overall just like understanding who Coriolanus Snow even is was so fun and just like super enjoyable. I think that there were a few things that were a little on the nose in terms of like trying to make connections with the original trilogy, but I do think that others were really fun and a little bit like speculative. Like there's some things that I'm like, wait, is that the same house, or is like that the same lake? And also just like seeing, like, because I've been intrigued, being able to see what other people are saying about it on like Reddit and stuff like that. It's just like, it's really fun to like see all of the fan theories. I'm torn on the way that it ends, because on one end it's like, obviously he's not just going to go down the route that we were going for so long. Like he's not gonna not go to school or like somehow just like be essentially banished from society and then eventually become the president. So there had to be something that happened that got him back into a position where he could be of power, but it just kind of felt a little like it tied up all the loose ends extremely quickly. Also, if you hear any like banging noises, the fireworks are literally going off right now, so I'm so sorry if you hear that, but hopefully it's not too loud. The one thing I will say is I feel like Coriolanus from the get-go did not like Mockingjays, and he kind of didn't have a reason. He was just kind of like, ugh, I hate those birds. And I felt like that was like a little like forced almost. Like it just kind of felt like random that he didn't like these birds. But then in the very last chapter, which is chapter 30, there's a scene, and I think that scene was so perfect, and I think it would have sufficed so well if that was like the reason why he didn't like Mockingjays. And I think that it solidified the reason, but I don't think that it was like the reason. Like he seemed to already not like them. So the random hatred from the very beginning of these birds I didn't love, because it just made it feel like, oh, he always didn't like those birds, and so then that being Katniss's bird is like part of like what made him not like Katniss. But that particular scene was just so good. Like truly, I loved it. I thought it was so perfect. I don't want to give any spoilers, but it was really good. I really liked it a lot. I'm trying to think of anything else that I in particular like really enjoyed, but overall I just thought it was a fantastic book. I really enjoyed being back in the world. I think Suzanne Collins has like fantastic writing, honestly, so I was just happy to read something else by her. And now, speaking of, I'm going to read Sunrise on the Reaping, which I'm so excited excited about. I've been wanting to read this book for so long. I hadn't realized how long Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes was. Like, I did not realize it was over 500 pages, at least in the Kindle edition. But Sunrise on the Reaping is much shorter. It's like 350 or so, maybe 375. It's under 400 pages. I know that much. I'm really glad that this one's a little bit shorter. I could probably finish this one a lot faster. I don't want to make any promises to myself because we saw how that worked out this week with trying to promise myself that I would be able to finish Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes on like Monday, and then I'm finishing it on Friday. But let's see how much we can get through on Sunrise on the Reaping. So we have 2 more days of reading. So let's get to it and we'll start Sunrise on the Reaping. It's Saturday and I haven't done a ton of reading today because this morning I woke up super late and then I went over to a friend's house so that we could go to a pool party. And then when I came home, before we went to the pool party, I had started Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, the movie. And then when I came home, I was like, I just really want to watch the movie. So I watched it and it was so good. I do think that they cut out a few pieces or like had to remove a few pieces to be able to compact everything into the 2-hour movie. Like if it was 3 hours or if it was 2 separate movies, that maybe could have put everything into it because there were so many like small missing pieces, but it was so good still. And the ending was like probably my favorite part of the book and of the movie. Like it just, the way that everything happens, like I don't want to tell you guys because I don't want to spoil anything for you, but it's just like so perfect. I gave some more reflection on it and like truly I think at first I felt like, oh, it's so easy for him to just like immediately go back into the Capitol, and clearly we know that he becomes the president, and the ending felt like wrapped up super fast. But at the same time, I feel like it was always the plan. He was kind of starting to like, you could watch him progressively like get almost like in his own head about a lot of stuff. It was kind of funny because Ryan only watched like bits and pieces with me. He saw the actor who was playing Coriolanus Snow and he was like, yeah, like he's just not a very good actor. And I was like, no, like that's exactly how the character is supposed to be, like kind of straight faced and like just doesn't let anything bother him. And then by the end, the emotion is so high that the acting was just like so good. And then Ryan was like, oh no, I just completely take that back. He was actually like perfect for the role. Like I'm just, oh, and I'm so excited because I found out that he's the same person who's going to be playing one of the main characters in a Emily Henry movie, I think. I don't know if it's a movie or like a short TV show, but I think it's movie. And I'm so excited for that too because he's a great actor. Like I really loved his performance. I'm really happy that I got a chance to see that, but that also means I did not read much of Sunrise on the Reaping. I think I'm still like 6 pages in. So I'm gonna go ahead and go start that. Ryan is watching a TV show in the living room, so I'm gonna put my headphones on, or either I'll go in there and read while he watches or I'll stay in here. We'll see. Let's go start Sunrise on the Reaping and then we'll be done with the series, which is so crazy that I can't believe that that's gonna be the last one. I hope there's another one coming out soon, but I haven't heard anything about that. Happy Sunday. Yesterday I started Sunrise on the Reaping, but I really got like a few pages in, and this morning I like actually got into it. So now I'm on chapter 2, like halfway through it. The chapters in here are kind of long, so it's taking me a sec to get into, but I'm really excited to actually be in it. Already there's so many little bits and pieces that you're seeing from Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and also from the original trilogy, and it's so cool to see who Haymitch is friends with. Like we got those bits and pieces from Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes too, where like you're starting to piece together who Coriolanus Snow was friends with and like who he knew in his lifetime and how that relates to the original trilogy. But now seeing Haymitch and his side of everything, it's cool for him to like be friends with Katniss's dad and be friends with, or no, Peeta's dad. Like all of these like little things that I just never really thought about or realized before. I'm really enjoying it. Like I love all the little cameos. This one has much more obvious cameos, like they explicitly say their names, whereas in the last book it's like more of like a hidden meaning, or like you kind of have to deduce who is who. So it's been very exciting. I'm excited to finally get to it, and I already know, just looking through all of the reviews on Goodreads and seeing how, first of all, how many 5 stars, or like 4.5, 4.75, whatever, how many times it's been rated so highly, and also the comments that people make, like just them being sad for Haymitch, crying at the book, like all of it. It makes me excited to like, I want to be attached to a book. I'm going to start reading now and get more into it. I think it's gonna take me a while to finish this book, so I don't actually know that I'll be able to finish it within this vlog, but hopefully I'll be able to get through a good chunk of it, and I'll keep you guys updated and I'll let you know where I'm at. And if I don't finish it today, then you guys will see in another vlog what my thoughts are on it. Okay, I wanted to give you guys an update. I'm now officially 16% of the way through my book. I'm on chapter 5 and I'm about 70 pages into the book. I wrote down a couple of thoughts. Something cool about the Hunger Games and seeing all of the books from different time periods, like the original trilogy being when it is, and then like Songbirds and Snakes being, you know, 60 years in the past, and then where Sunrise and the Reaping is, where it's like Haymitch's year. You can kind of see how things have progressed over time. So like in the first few, like 10 Hunger Games, the arena is like just this like concrete arena and like kind of nothing happens. There's nowhere to hide. Basically everybody dies within like the first day. So they're not used to like this long games situation, even though they still call it the Hunger Games. Whereas as you get closer and closer to Katniss's year, you're seeing all of that develop. So like in Haymitch's year, you're seeing him like get on the train and like be treated properly versus being thrown on like a cart and being hauled off to the Capitol. So overall, it's just like interesting to see how all of that progresses, and you can kind of see where Coriolanus's impact is in all of this. He really cares about the power, and you see that with like all of the propaganda that you're seeing in this book, Sunrise on the Reaping too. And it's just also interesting to see the Capitol citizens. Like, I'm glad that we got the perspective in the very first, or like in Songbirds and Snakes, where we understand how the Capitol citizens feel too, because they also don't feel quite the same way as like the people in power, like how a president might feel. So all of that has been really interesting. We're finally in a point in this book where the tributes are coming out of the train. They're like finally making their way to the Capitol, and the games are likely going to start soon. Like, we're gonna see all the interviews and all of that too. So we're just kind of getting to know the characters still, but it's been really fun to see who Haymitch was around this time. Let's keep reading and I'll keep updating you guys. I don't know how far I'll get tonight, but I'm hoping to get decently far by the end of the day. Okay, I'm now 20% of the way through this book. There's really basic things I was saying before, that it's so obvious that Snow is the president, and like now that we know so much about Snow from the previous book before this one, you can feel all the little influences. And just something as simple as like they're driving through the Capitol and they're going toward like the chariot part of the Hunger Games, and the anthem is just like playing everywhere in the city, which is something that Coriolanus Snow experienced in his apartment growing up with his grandma. Like, she was just always singing the anthem, and that was like a really big part for him. So it's just really fun knowing all of the backstory and like seeing all those like tiny little things that you can almost guess that he's the one behind saying like, this needs to be happening in our city at all times. I feel like after reading that book, like at first I was like, that was pretty good, but as I think about it more and more and think about how in depth it made me feel about the characters, or like how much I understood about the characters now, I feel like that was fantastic, and it just like made this world so much bigger than it actually is. I'm curious to see, I feel like I've heard like rumors online, which I think I mentioned already, that they may be coming up with a third. So like there'll be the original trilogy and then a new trilogy, and I'm curious to know who it's going to be about. I saw some things about maybe it was going to be Plutarch Heavensbee, which I think could be interesting. I don't know how much Effie Trinket is a character in this book. Like, so far we haven't seen her at all, but it could be interesting if it was something like her too, because I don't think she was huge in the original, like at least in the first book, but in the movies she was massive. So it could also be interesting to see more of her. I'm gonna keep reading. Ryan is gonna go play video games, so I'm gonna read while he plays video games, and I'm just gonna listen to my music and continue reading. All right, today is actually Monday, and I wanted to wrap up the vlog here for you guys. So I've been reading Sunrise on the Reaping. I made it to chapter 8, I believe, which is almost a third of the way through. I am just over 100 pages, almost 120 pages in, and I'm so sad that I didn't read more, but I've been really, really loving the book. So as I continue to read, I will sprinkle in everything over the course of the next few vlogs of like all of my thoughts and things like that too. So stay tuned on other vlogs, because even though I'm vlogging just like normal day to day, I still talk about my books. It's not just in reading vlogs. But I did want to update you guys on a few thoughts that I had about the book now that I've gotten a little bit further in. Right now we're at the point where they're starting to get ready for like the interview process and things like that. So they've already done like the chariot riding and that kind of stuff. It's interesting that in these two books, both Sunrise on the Reaping and Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, the Hunger Games feel pretty disorganized. And like I can kind of see that for Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes because it was the 10th year. But for this one, we're now 50 years in and it still feels extremely disorganized in comparison to the original Hunger Games trilogy. I feel like, I don't know if they just like faked it better or if they actually got their stuff together by the time Katniss was having her experience with the Hunger Games. But it's interesting that now that we see how disorganized, 50 years into the Hunger Games, how disorganized everything is, I kind of understand how the Capitol ends up falling in the original trilogy, because when you see it from Katniss's perspective, everything seems so perfect, everything seems so put together and organized. And so for one person to be able to dismantle all of that feels surprising, and no less under a year. With this book, you're kind of realizing, like, between Sunrise on the Reaping and this one, the Capitol kind of just puts on this facade, and a lot of people within the Capitol actually don't have the same viewpoints as the leaders, like the president and the game makers and all of those people. I also just love that Suzanne Collins just clearly thinks through so many details, because nothing feels like it's by accident. Everything feels very purposeful. All of the connections that are made are for a reason. On top of it, I just feel like if there is something that maybe doesn't make sense to have connection, she'll leave something that's like really vague so she can either return to it or so that you can speculate on your own. And I just love that it just feels really well thought out. And if I don't have an answer to something, it's because I'm missing it, not because she missed it. So it's also been really fun to like go on Reddit and see what other people think about the series, or what their thoughts are on, you know, maybe something that happened in the series. And I love that piece of it too. So that's been really fun. Last thing that I had a thought on, Haymitch goes through a situation where he's talking to his mentor. And first of all, because we know what happens in the original trilogy, we've seen these mentors before in the actual Hunger Games, and it's so fun to see them in like a younger form. But something that they ask him is, what is it, aside from like not wanting to die, what is it that you really want in the Hunger Games? And he mentions that he really wants to show the Capitol that 50 years is enough. Like, these people who are now participating in the Hunger Games had nothing to do with the uprising, and he just feels like he wants to outsmart the games in some way. And it's so cool because that clearly alludes to what he ends up doing and what we know he does and how he wins in the Hunger Games, just based off of the original trilogy. I'm not gonna say exactly what happens, but if you guys have read the trilogy or any of the books, you probably know. But if you haven't, just in case, I don't want to say too much. But I just love, like, this just circles back to my original point of like Suzanne Collins really thinks about so many things. Just even that little tidbit of him saying like, I really want to figure out a way to outsmart the games, just shows that like that's exactly what he does in the long run. And like, maybe he doesn't realize that's what he's doing in the moment, which I haven't gotten there yet, so I don't actually know. But it's just so cool to see, and like just overall super exciting to get that little bit from him. I have like 8 hours left of this book, so I anticipate finishing this within the next couple of days, and I'm sad that I didn't get to wrap that up with you guys, but I have been loving it, and I just like being in the world, which I've said like a million times in this video already. But if you guys haven't read the original trilogy, or I mean even just watching the movies is really fun. There's gonna be a Sunrise on the Reaping movie, I think they said in 2026, so it's kind of like looking up who the cast is, but I want to just like envision it for myself first and then come back to that later. Anyway, I hope you guys have been enjoying the reading vlogs. I hope you guys have been enjoying the vlogs. If there's anything that you guys want to see on my channel, or if there's anything that you think that I should read, feel free to leave it in the comments below. Also, would love to know what you guys are currently reading, or what you're looking forward to reading within the next few months. I always love to hear your guys' recommendations and what you're reading, and just talk about books with you guys. That is all I have for today's video. So thank you guys so much for being here, and please consider subscribing if you've made it to this point in the video. It really helps out my channel. I appreciate every single one of you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.